Metropolitan Council Transportation Committee for January 13th, 2025. We are waiting for one more member before we have a quorum, so we're going to shuffle the agenda a little bit first. We will do reports and then the information item, and then we'll circle back to business. So with that, I will turn for reports first to MTS Services Executive Director Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, council members. 2 items to report on tonight. One, in close partnership with Metro Transit, we launched 2 new microtransit service areas last week. So Metro Microservice expanded into the Roseville area and into the Woodbury area. And we're successfully delivering on-demand rides to customers using our app-based microtransit service from 5:30 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. on weekdays, as well as weekend service starting at 7 a.m. So we're off to a good start with that service. Also last week, really significant funding news for transportation. So a number of different programs had grant announcements in the closing days of the Biden administration. They've announced several sources of funding. So railroad crossing elimination planning grants to the city of Anoka for $2.5 million and the city of Minneapolis for $2 million. As well as to the St. Paul Port Authority for about $636,000. Intercity passenger rail service grant to the Wisconsin DOT, but it's for the Borealis service that began last year, funding that will help support that service for the first year, second year, and beyond. Reconnecting Communities grants, City of Fridley received $16 million for a multimodal bridge over the BNSF railroad yard in Fridley, so great news there. Also for the Reconnecting Rondo, or the Reconnect Rondo project, $2 million for planning work to continue the land bridge to be built over a half mile of I-94. So they're going to use that funding for environmental work and historic resource work. On the rural surface transportation side, Carver County received $25 million for Highway 5, which will address a 2-lane gap on Highway 5 in Chanhassen and Victoria. So that's good news. It completes the funding for that project. Closer to the council, MnDOT received $25 million, which was the statutory max for the RAISE program to reconstruct 1.5 miles of Robert Street south of downtown St. Paul. So that'll include pedestrian crossings, improving sidewalks and trails, multimodal options, and replacing or rehabilitating the 100-year-old viaduct on Robert Street. The Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Program, the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux community received $1.35 million for 20 publicly accessible electric vehicle charging ports. And then at the Met Council ourselves, we received a $15 million grant, which is the program maximum, to deploy EV charging ports around the region. So we're going to receive and manage those funds, and then local implementers, presumably mostly local governments, would be applying to us and developing that program. So we're in our application, prioritizing renters, rural areas, low and moderate income neighborhoods, and environmental justice communities to bring electric vehicle charging infrastructure to make it more widely available in our communities. So something you'll learn more about as we develop the program, but very exciting news to be selected for that funding, and we'll be working on that in the months and years ahead. With that, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments? I'll just say that's amazing and great news, and really, really happy to see all the funding coming into the region, both into some of the things like the EV charging systems, but also the help out in some of our more rural areas of the region. So just great news. Now I will turn to our next report, which is Metro Transit Deputy General Manager and CEO Brian Funk.
Hi, good afternoon, council members, and happy 2025. I'm sitting in for Leslie this afternoon, And just a couple things to report. So as we all know and have experienced, 2025 is off to a cold start here in the Twin Cities. And so I just wanted to recognize that our staff are paying special attention to our customers and other people who are outside that may be vulnerable or experiencing situations that could lend a helping hand. And so they'll be working on triaging that through our control centers with our transit police and other first responders to make sure that people are able to effectively stay out of harm's way when we have some of these cold weather days like we're experiencing this week. Also, a big shout out for our frontline employees, many of whom are working out in those cold conditions. And even with the best cold weather gear and heavy boots, it's still not a fun experience. And so really applaud them for continuing to come in and make sure that our service is able to be delivered safely and reliably each and every day. Sort of on the other side of the country, the Los Angeles area, as everyone has followed along, is experiencing quite different conditions than ours. And so I've been in touch with some of our colleagues at LA Metro just to make sure they know that all of us are keeping them in their thoughts, and then also staying plugged in with the State Homeland Security Emergency Management. So as resources from around the country are mustered and potentially deployed, we can keep our eye to see if there's anything that we may be able to assist them with as they're going through really unprecedented challenges out there. And then finally, just a little bit closer to home, on Wednesday, we'll start the first of our quarterly town halls. And so, as folks might remember, as an effort to make sure that all of us are staying in constant communication with staff across the organization, we have town halls. The first one will be sort of a hybrid where people can attend either in person or through the Teams link, and then we'll be going to work sites over the next several weeks. And so the general manager, myself, others from senior leadership, try to make a special point to go out, provide meaningful updates, and really look ahead at what 2025 has in store. So, and then the final thing, I said I had 3, but I thought of one more. We are 68 days from the opening of the Gold Line service between Woodbury and downtown St. Paul. So everything seems to be moving along as expected, and we'll be continuing to cross T's and dot I's and make sure that everything's in place, but it's going really well. So I know we have a future information item about the state of the readiness coming up in the next couple months as the work plan is adopted, and we'll make sure that you have good information to have confidence that we're all set and ready to go well ahead of the opening. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Questions, comments? Just a couple of quick comments. Yes, I would kudos all the thank you for people working out in the cold. It has been pretty bitter the last few days. I'm really happy to hear that about kind of keeping your eye on what's happening in LA and seeing if there's any way that we can help or plug in. That's really appreciative. And then on the Gold Line, I will say every groundbreaking opening event has been freezing cold. So I hope in 63 days that you'll arrange that it's not like today for the Gold Line.
Working on it. Yep.
All right. Yeah, that's my personal request. All right, well, thank you. And if there's no other questions, we can go to our information item, which is the 2023 TBI survey results, and we have Brandon Whited here to present. And thank you for your flexibility.
Thank you for having me. Is this the clicker?
Greg will pull it up.
There we go.
Yep,
Okay.
there you go.
Yeah. Thank you for having me here today. Madam Chair and council members, I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the TBI, or Travel Behavior Inventory Household Survey. We just finished the 3rd wave of a continuing survey program where we've started doing this survey about every 2 years to collect information on local residents, demographic information, daily travel activities, typical transportation patterns. And please, if you have any questions, I would encourage you to, let me know, and I would love to answer them as we go through the presentation. To do this survey, we send out mailers to people's houses inviting them to participate in the survey. We invite them to use a smartphone app where they'll share with us a trip diary throughout the week, or if they don't have access to or prefer not to use a smartphone, they can use an online survey or a call center to submit their data. In doing this, we really get a good sense of how people travel in the region. During this study, we focus on the 7-county Twin Cities metro area, 9 adjoining collar counties in Minnesota, and 3 collar counties in Wisconsin. Overall, the study area comprises about 1.4 million households. And when we analyze the results, we try to expand them so that they represent the region. When we look at this data, we can see that it spans the entire region. This is a map of trips that people have shared with us through the region, and you can see it goes well outside, like covers the entire region pretty well, and including some people even take vacations and stuff during the survey, and we sometimes get to travel outside of the town, the area. Now, this is a very surface level analysis that we're going to be looking at today. This is a very rich data set. People provide a lot of information to us. So we're actually going to divide this up into a couple presentations. Today, I'm going to share with you a couple of slices of the data, and then we're going to come back in a future session and share with you a little more. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at various aspects of travel through various lenses. And I'm going to start first with how much we travel. So when we start looking at the results of the survey, we get a sense of what are the trip rates people are taking. And since we're on this continuous survey program, we're gonna get some data every couple of years describing this. Prior to that, we were doing it every 10 years. But in 2019, we switched to like an every couple of years survey for a couple of reasons, so that we could start to see how travel behavior is changing a little sooner than we would have otherwise, and it helps mitigate the risk of unforeseen circumstances like a pandemic. So this is like kind of the first attempt or the first look at how travel behavior is evolving over the last couple surveys. What we're looking at here is very high level. 2019, we looked at the average trip rate, average weekday trips per person came in at 2.4 trips per weekday. In 2021, we saw that bump down to 2.9, and we're starting to return back to the we're trending back to the 2019 numbers at 3.5 in 2023. The next round of the survey is scheduled to start either late this year or early next year. So we'll look forward to showing you kind of how this trend continues going forward. So the next few slides, we're going to take a look at these 3 main buckets of 2019, 2021, and 2023, but we're going to subdivide them by some demographics to try to get a more complete story of what's going on. So dividing this up into household income, we see the overall trend is there with the 2019 bars being larger than the 2021 and the 2023 in the middle. But in the 2019, when we look at it also by household income, we see as household incomes of the higher income rates tend to have higher trip rates prior to the pandemic. Then in 2021 and 2023, we don't see such a clear signal of trip rates responding to household incomes. So it appears there might be a behavioral shift that happened between the 2019 or pre-pandemic and post-pandemic era travel. We're going to slice this up. We looked at this in terms of gender. Now, we do notice the overall trend of higher trip rate before in 2019 and lower in 2021 and higher in 2023. But we don't notice a significant change, or we notice similar trip rates within each year across the 3 buckets. Slicing this to look at trip rates by age categories. Now this is, instead we're going to visualize this with a line graph. Across the bottom of the screen, you're going to see the various age categories, starting with under 15 and going all the way up to 75 or older. The top line is going to be the 2019 data. The bottom line is going to be the 2021 data, and the middle line is the 2023. still showing kind of that overall trip pattern that's happened over the last 3 years. But one thing we do notice is the 2021 data, peak average weekday trips moved one category younger than previous. So it looks like we might be observing a little bit of a behavioral change in terms of age and travel and how much people are traveling. So we slice this up looking at it by race. And we see the overall pattern, but within a year, looking at, there seem to be similar trip rate patterns in race between all the years. So we didn't see a lot of behavioral changes of race over time. We slice this by employment, and that's a similar story. We didn't see a lot of trip rate patterns being unique to employment status over time, aside from the overall trend that we've seen. So that's a look at trip rates. Now we're going to switch our attention and look at how we travel. And by what I mean by how we travel is what mode we're using to travel. And we'll start with an overall look and a comparison over the last 3 waves of the survey. There's 2 graphs on this slide. The first graph is really to illustrate that most, on the left here, that most of the travel is still done by personal vehicles. Comes in at about 85%, and it's been holding fairly consistent over the last couple, or the 3 waves of the survey that we just completed. And what we're looking at here is a proportion of total trips we've observed, which means about 15% of the trips use all the other modes for their travel. The graph on the right is that 15% further broken down. And within there, you see that walk trips constitute the biggest proportion, the next biggest proportion. And then I'll draw your attention to the transit, where we saw transit use decline going into 2021 and starting to rebound in 2023. So now we're going to kind of change the way we look at this a little bit. We're not going to compare over time, but we're going to zoom into 2023, which is the most recent data that we've received. And we're going to take a look at these modes and then split them out by other demographic factors. So how to read this graph is you look at the rows. For example, the row on the bottom is personal vehicle. And that's saying all personal vehicle trips in this category, and we're dividing it up by household income. So when you see the household income of 100,000 plus being 49%, what that is it's 49% of all personal vehicle trips are being taken by households making $100,000 or more. The other 51% is divided up amongst the other household income responses. Then if you go up to the top of the graph where we see taxi, Uber, and Lyft, you'll see amongst all taxi, Uber, Lyft rides we have observed, 51% of them went to households making under 100,000, or no, I'm sorry, making under 25,000 a year. And then the remaining income categories dividing up the 49%, the other 49%. So what you're seeing is as you move up the graph, you see these the modes skewing more towards lower income households. And as you move down the graph, you see these transportation modes skewing more towards higher income households.
Yeah.
Councilmember Chambliss.
Yeah, that's really curious. I'm wondering if we have a tendency to see lower income individuals taking taxis in general. Do you know if it's changed much? Because I know sometimes you go to the grocery store and you'll see, people who don't have vehicles taking a taxi to get groceries and things like that.
Okay, Madam Chair and council members, to clarify, does that mean like over time? Is this been consistent?
Yeah, so like if we saw that in, let's say 2016 or, before then even, was there a higher percentage of the lower income population using taxis in general?
Madam Chair and council members, yeah, I can't answer that off the cuff here. We don't have, we have that data, I just didn't analyze it for this presentation.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Carter?
Just another comment. The nuance here does suggest that lower income people are paying a higher percentage of their income on travel because the mode seems to be more expensive, the mode that they're using. I don't know if that's true because it depends upon what you calculate when you look at car ownership, but I'm wondering if there's any data that you'll be sharing with us about that.
Madam Chair and council members, that is not within the scope of this presentation, but that is an avenue that I think we can look into. I'm not entirely sure we have robust data to do a great analysis on that, but it is something that we can circle back on, I think.
If not to show what it proves, to show what the data may suggest. Thank you.
That's a great observation, thank you. Okay, so next we're going to take a look at a similar graph, only not divided up by household income, but divided up by race. Here we split race into two race categories, white and black, indigenous, and people of color. We'll see that on the bottom of the graph, of all personal vehicle trips, 83% of them are taken by folks that have responded or have identified as white, and the remaining 17% has been taken by folks that have identified as black, indigenous, or people of color. As we go up the graph to these different modes, we see the skew coming back, skewing heavier towards black, indigenous, and people of color, with transit showing about 43% of trips going to black, indigenous, and people of color, while 57% are going to white. And again, Uber and Lyft, 52 to 48 split on that. Now we'll divide the same graph, but we're dividing it up by age. So personal vehicle trips, we see that amongst the different age categories, it's not perfectly evenly distributed, but it's much more than some of the other age categories. As we go up the graph, we start to see that the modes towards the top are skewing to towards younger riders, and the modes near the bottom of the graph are skewing to older riders. With taxi, Uber, and Lyft, the age category of 25 to 34 taking up almost half of those rides, and bike and scooter, under 34 is taking up roughly 43%. I'm doing the math right on the spot.
I have a question on this one. So I know, just because I happen to have a 19 and 21-year-olds, both of who do have their driver's license, but a number of their friends are not getting them or delaying getting driver's licenses. So do we know if some of the non-motorized or TNC services is partially due to people not getting driver's licenses?
Madam Chair and council members, I can't answer that right here, but I can look into the data. I'm failing to recall if we asked if they have a driver's license. I think that we might have, so we can circle back on that.
All right, that'd be great. Councilmember Chambliss.
Yeah, I think just getting this basic data just kind of makes you think about other factors that might be involved, because obviously the cost of owning a vehicle and insurance and all of those other things are probably a factor too, and how that impacts younger folks. So that's very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we covered this slide. Yeah, so bike and scooter, taxi, Uber, Lyft are skewing younger, while personal vehicles are skewing a little more evenly distributed through the age ranges.
Councilmember Carter.
Perhaps I should be able to assume, or maybe I wasn't listening, but could you share what other is? Madam Chair and council members, other is, we asked around 30 or so modes that they could take.
So other is going to be a lot of things like like pool, like multi-occupancy vehicles, like carpooling or van pooling, and kind of a catch-all. There's various things like, did you take a snowmobile or an ATV or helicopter, which obviously don't get a lot, but we kind of group all that other stuff into that. I can provide a comprehensive list of what that is.
That's helpful, thank you.
Okay, next we'll turn our attention to when we travel. When we're looking at this, the respondents to the survey did share what time, when they take a trip, what time they leave and what time they get to their destination. So we get a sense of like how long they're traveling and when they're traveling. And what we're looking at here is I focused just on departure times of trips. And I graphed them against different years against each other. 2019 is the green, it's going to be the green bar with the shading behind it. 2021 is going to be the orange bar, and 2023 is going to be the blue bar. I want to call your attention, let's contrast between the 2019 and the 2021. We see a couple of things happening. We see the peaks are less prevalent for when people are taking their trips. The morning peak is for sure shaved down a little bit more. The PM peak is definitely reduced a little more. So it's a little more consistent traveling through the day. And we also notice they've shifted inward, meaning trips that people are taking are leaving a little later in the morning, or trips that people are taking are happening a little earlier in the evening. So we're kind of shrinking the window of major trip-taking behaviors. Then as we go from 2021 to 2023, you see that blue bar sort of splits the difference between the 2019 and the 2021, suggesting that we are starting to see travel behaviors trend more towards what they were like in 2019, both in peakedness of travel and in kind of the time frame when people are taking their travel throughout the day. So this is a comparison of years. Next, we're going to zoom into 2023, which is the most recent data, and compare. This didn't get updated, but that's okay. Well, let's skip this one. We've discovered that there was an issue in the slide. We did it, and we will. It's in the printout that I noticed it's been updated. So I don't want to talk about this one at the moment. Okay, but let's look at trip departure times by broken up by race. Here we're looking at Black, Indigenous, and people of color versus white, and there's a sizable chunk of the respondents responded as didn't disclose their race when they responded to the survey. Since the Black, Indigenous, or since white people constitute, I believe it's around 69% of the population, we do see the larger proportion of trips coming out of that group, which is why this graph is, or their blind is so much higher than the others. But looking at the Black, Indigenous, and people of color, it is just as peaked. It's just kind of hard to see at this scale. One thing we do notice between those two is that folks that have identified as Black, Indigenous, or people of color, their AM peak is about an hour later than people identified as white, and their PM peak is also about an hour later as people identified as white. And then the people that didn't disclose, their peakedness in travel is much more similar to the people who identified as white. And this will be the last graph that we're going to show today. But we also split this out by how people reported their employment status. You'll see that the line that's on top is people who reported being full-time employed, and they have a very peakness to their travel, where we see an AM peak, a PM peak, and even a midday peak. The red line is people that reported not employed, and you'll see their travel differ substantially from people that are identified as full-time employed, where we see kind of a smooth increase a plateau and steadiness through the day, and a smooth decrease into the evening hours. So we see that there is a fundamental difference between your employment status and your trip-taking behavior. And then what we see with the part-time employed and the other and missing category, we see that it's sort of kind of a hybrid of the two, somewhere in between. So that's a look at when people are traveling. And really that's what I have to share with you today. And to give you a preview, next time I'm going to talk to you about why people travel. They reported the purpose of the trips they're taking. We'll start to look at telework and VMT. So with that, I'll open up to any further questions you may have.
All right, thank you. Additional questions, comments? Councilmember Cameron.
I apologize that I came in late, so I might just be a little confused on this. But on the differences in race for travel time by race and ethnicity, you talked about a difference that there is significantly more trips taken by riders who identify as white. But then I thought on some of the earlier slides that it was a pretty even distribution by race. And so I was just kind of, I didn't quite understand why there's that big differential. Yes.
You're seeing the difference because we're displaying kind of like a count of trips, while on previous graphs we're displaying like proportions of trips. So with a graph like this, it doesn't actually say anything about how many trips are being taken, only kind of what's on what slice of the pie versus the other slice of the pie. So in here, when we look at personal vehicle trips, what it's saying of all personal vehicle trips, 83% of them are being taken by people who are identifying white, and 17 are people identifying as Black, Indigenous, people of color. That's not saying anything about how many trips are being taken, only kind of how many are falling into each, or the proportionality of the buckets.
Okay. Yep, I see. The one I was looking at is per person, so it's proportionalized based on overall population. I was looking at trip rate across survey waves by race, and you adjusted for population size, right?
Here?
Yes, this is adjusted.
Yeah, and this is, okay, so yeah, this is a rate, yeah, so this is an average.
Okay. Thank you.
Additional questions or comments? All right, well, thank you. Apparently, we're very curious, so I'm sure we'll look forward to future versions, kind of more data. I would say it's a very data-driven committee, all of this intrigues us, so thank you very much, and thank you for your flexibility, appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure. Thank you, Madam Chair and council members.
Very good. All right, now we can return back to the agenda. So our first item of business is approval of the December 9th, 2024 meeting minutes. If there's no changes or additions, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
Moved by Councilmember Chambliss. Is there a second?
Second.
Then by Councilmember Pacheco. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay, and the minutes are approved. Now we'll go on to the items on consent. There are 3 items on consent tonight. I'd entertain a motion to approve the items on consent.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Carter. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Cameron. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay, and the motion carries. Now we're on to non-consent business. The first one is business item 2025-15, which is regionally significant 2025 through 2028 TIP amendment. We have Robbie King here. Oh, no, Joe Barbaro.
Thank you, Chair. Robbie woke up with a sick child, so it made more sense for myself to come in, and I'll make him come someday. So what we have here is a TIP amendment that is considered regionally significant. And so most of the TIP amendments you might recognize come on the consent agenda. Regionally significant amendments come non-consent, and a regionally significant TIP amendment is one generally that is either adding a significant transit corridor or a mile or more of additional lane mileage, and that latter is what's happening here. So in this request, MnDOT is requesting an amendment to the TIP to add its regionally significant I-494 Easy Pass extension project. And that project will extend the I-494 Easy Pass lanes, reconstruct pavement, improve drainage, and add ADA improvements on I-494 from Penn Avenue to 34th Avenue, I-494 from US 169 to Minnesota 100, and I-35W from 86th Street to 76th Street in Richfield and Bloomington. The project is funded with $135 million of federal funds along $85 million of Corridors of Commerce funds. So along with the request comes a public comment period. The process going through TAB is delayed by a month. Not delayed by a month, but there's 2 TAB meetings that it goes through so that public comments can be reviewed. That comment period ran from late November to December 11th. There were 3 comments. None of the comments expressed preference towards this project. They all expressed opposition, I should say. 2 of them were concerned with lane expansion in general because of impacts to vehicle miles traveled, and preference towards other modes. And then there was an additional comment with opposition based on support for general purpose lanes as opposed to easy pass lanes. So that's all I have in the way of a presentation. With that, I would stand for questions.
Thank you, Joe. Questions or comments? All right, seeing none, then I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2025-15.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Cameron. And is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Chambliss. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks.
All right, now we're on to business item 2025-28, which is the adoption of the highway safety performance targets. We have Jed Hansen here. Oh, no. You guys are all changed. We have Heidi.
Yeah, so Jed's under the weather and Heidi will present for us. Jed had prepared some slides and we're checking if we actually have those slides. We might not. We might be going off the item itself. So
Yeah, I had emailed them, but I don't know if they got them loaded.
So yeah, they weren't added to the agenda, but we're seeing if we can add them later and issue them now. Heidi, Madam Chair, it might make sense to begin from just the item and we can pull the slides up if they're available.
Sounds good.
Sure. So good evening, Madam Chair and council members. I'm Heidi Schallberg, Planning Analyst at MTS here. Jed Hansen is out sick today. So this is our annual adoption of targets for highway safety performance measures that are required by US DOT for metropolitan planning organizations. So this helps us evaluate how the region is doing in work to reduce the number of people who die or are seriously injured from traffic crashes. Helps us inform our planning and programming work, and it's also something that the federal government uses to help track performance of the Federal Highway Safety Improvement Program. So all MPOs must establish targets each year right now by the end of February. So these include the number of all traffic fatalities and the rate per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, the number of all serious injuries, and then also that rate per 100 million vehicle miles traveled. And then a subset of those numbers is the number of non-motorized or biking and walking fatal and serious injuries from those. Thank you. I will just note the Federal Highway Administration has proposed some changes to this rule that have not been finalized. So the frequency of this target setting may change going forward. We don't have the final rule on that yet, but they did propose to do that less frequently than annually, and the methodology requirements may change in future years. But for right now, we're still on the annual process. So the recommendation before you today from our committees is to continue using the same method that we have used to set this target since 2021. This is basically taking a state goal that was set in the Minnesota Strategic Highway Safety Plan, kind of looking at the Metro's share of that goal, and then basically doing a straight line reduction from the start of that baseline in 2020 for each year. So we'll also note that Strategic Highway Safety Plan was through 2024, it had a goal for 2025. That plan is currently in the process of being updated. It should be updated in the first part of this year by MnDOT. So that may inform reevaluation of how we set targets going forward. As I mentioned, It's a way to help us evaluate how we're doing since COVID began in 2020. We'll see, as we see on the slides, kind of a divergence on where we should be according to our targets versus where we are. So these next 3 slides I'll just go through relatively quickly. The bottom line is the adopted targets that we've had for each year. The top kind of oranger line has been the actual. The end of this was done with data that we had through October at the time for 2024. That data does take a little bit of time to finalize and was the most recent we had when we started through our committee process. But you can see we had gotten a little bit closer in 2020, and then since the onset of COVID have gone backwards on where we need to be on progress for that. I will note that at least preliminary numbers just for the 7-county region for 2024 indicated we were at, I think, 136 fatalities for year end, but that's likely to change and will be finalized more mid-year. Serious injuries, similar pattern where we actually were meeting our targets for a couple of years on that and then have had a reversal of that, especially since 2021. Those we do not have updated numbers yet for the final of 2024. And then a similar story with the non-motorized or the biking and walking fatalities and serious injuries where we had met the target on those and have had a reversal since then. So the recommended motion for you today is to, again, continue with the methodology that we've used each year so far since 2021 to set this target. And emphasize that this is toward the long-term goal. We want to get to 0 deaths and serious injuries from traffic crashes on our system. By recognizing we won't get there overnight, this sets a target for 2025 of no more than 74 people as fatalities from traffic crashes, no more than 0.26 fatal injuries per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, no more than 464 serious injuries, no more than 1.64 serious injuries per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, and then no more than 115 pedestrian and bicyclist fatalities and serious injuries. That's the motion I have before you. Be happy to try to answer any questions you might have by that. We are doing other safety planning work, both at the council and with our partners regionally. It takes a pretty broad approach and everyone pulling in the right direction on this to make a change.
Thank you, Heidi, and thanks for stepping in. I appreciate it. Questions or comments? I'll just say, as I repeat the annual thing, that this is my least favorite thing we vote on of what's acceptable. One of the things we've been hearing a lot from our agency representative, Connie Hepjem at MnDOT at TAB, is how high the fatality rates are and how they are not coming down. He reported in December of 2024 that we were at 447 fatalities at the state level, which is really unacceptable. And I think that is definitely something that is top of mind. And if you look at even the work in the regional solicitation, the TPP, this is why safety continues to rise, as I'm sure. But anyhow, that's my editorial. So any additional questions, comments? Councilmember Chambliss.
Yes. Do you know if there are less people, if there are more people not using seatbelts, or if there are more chemical dependency factors related to some of the injuries or fatalities? Do we have that information?
Madam Chair and Council Member, I don't have that off the top of my head, but we can check and follow up with you. We do have that information in the crash data and could check the breakdown.
Yeah, I mean, just because if we see it trending up, we kind of want to see if there are additional factors that can help inform us. Yeah, thank you.
Well, I will just note that Connie has consistently said that speed is a significant factor, and especially seeing significant problems with speed in construction zones as a concern. So, all right, if there's no additional questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve business item 2025-28.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Carter. Is there a second?
Second.
And by Councilmember Chambliss. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we're on to business item. I'm just looking. There's three items. We've got similar people presenters, so business item 2025-20, 21, and 22. And we have Jody Jansen and Paul Colton here. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Barber. I'm Paul Colton, Fleet Manager for MTS. And with me today is Jody Jansen, our newest member of the fleet team, Senior Project Administrator. Jody is taking over all of the fleet purchasing for MTS, and I can't tell you how excited we are to have her with us. She has done a fantastic job so far. With that, I will turn it over to Jody for the first recommendation.
All right, welcome, Jody.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and council members. Our first business item 2025-20, we would propose that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 25P036 with Motor Coach Industries, Inc. to exercise purchase options utilizing the state of Washington's master contract number 06719 for 3 45-foot coach buses in an amount not to exceed $3.3 million. Purchase of these 45-foot coach buses will allow MVTA to continue maintaining a state of good repair for their fleet. These coach buses are replacements for buses that have reached their useful life in 2024. Funding for these buses are in the approved capital plan and will use federal funds and local funds. Full funding is contingent upon approval of the project in the council's authorized capital program through the business item BI 2025-02JT that is yet to come. So I'll open it up to questions.
Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2025-20.
Motion to approve?
Moved by Councilmember Chambliss. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Carter. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Go ahead.
Thank you. Madam Chair and council members, our next item is business item 2025-21. In this, our proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate, execute contract 25P210 with North Central Bus Sales, utilizing the Sourcewell contract number 063020-BBB for 21 expansion and 10 replacement small buses in an amount not to exceed $5,256,050. This procurement of 31 replacement and expansion buses will align with the capital improvement plan contingent upon the approval of business item BI 2025-02JT. Purchase of these small buses will allow MTS to continue to maintain a state of good repair for its Metro Mobility and fixed route fleet, including 19 expansion buses for Metro Mobility, 2 expansion buses for fixed route Network Now service, and 10 replacement buses for fixed route Network Now service. Open for questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I entertain a motion to approve business item number 2025-21.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Cameron. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Pacheco. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. And back to you.
Thank you. Our final item for tonight, business item 2025-22. And in this action, we would ask that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 25P211 with Gillig LLC to exercise purchase options utilizing the state of Washington's master contract number 06719 for 38 replacement and 5 expansion heavy-duty buses of various sizes in an amount not to exceed $35,093,000. These 38 heavy-duty buses will replace heavy-duty buses that will exceed their useful life in 2025. Vehicles, there's a total of 5 Gillig buses for MVTA, 2 Gillig buses for Plymouth, and 36 Gillig buses for MTS utilizing NTD funding. These buses are in the approved capital plan and will use federal and local funds. Full funding is contingent upon approval of the projects in the council's authorized capital program through business item BI 2025-02JT. Open for questions?
Thank you. Questions or comments? Councilmember Cameron?
I just, since we have so many items related to that contract, I just wanted to verify in the state, the agreement that we have with the state of Washington, is that I can't recall, are we the only other signers within that contract, or are there multiple entities
I
purchasing?
see Jody making her way up, so.
Hey, Jody.
Madam Chair and council members, Jody Jacoby, Chief Procurement Officer. And the council is one of many participants. I believe there's 15 properties across the country that participate in this cooperative. In fact, it's strongly encouraged by the Federal Transit Administration to unify resources and then use this cooperative that's federally compliant. So I don't have the specific number, Councilmember Cameron, but I know that there's at least a dozen.
Thank you.
All right, additional questions or comments? I'm going to ask the one question I asked in our prep meeting was, because I hadn't really seen this language, what is the difference between buses and heavy-duty buses?
Chair Barber, council members. So we use them somewhat interchangeably, other than buses, as sort of the overall for any typically piece of equipment we're talking about, and then we will dial it down to heavy-duty bus, which is our 30-foot Gilligs, our 40-foot, our coaches, our articulated buses, and then, of course, our small buses that we utilize in Metro Mobility, in Transit Link, and our other programs.
Okay. Then with that, if I would entertain a motion to approve business item 2025-22.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Carter. Is there a second?
Second.
Then by Councilmember Chambliss. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we're on to business item 2025-27, which is a review of the Metropolitan Airports Commission CIP. And we have Joe Whiting here.
Good afternoon, council members. I'll be presenting the business item for the council's annual review of the Metropolitan Airports Commission's capital improvement program for the years 2025 through 2031. Bridget Reef is with me as well in the audience here from the MAC. If there's any questions after this, we can certainly answer them. So state statutes 473.601 and .679 task the Metropolitan Airports Commission to prepare long-term comprehensive plans for their metro airports and to annually prepare a 7-year capital improvement program, which includes what's known as an assessment of environmental effects for CIP projects, which documents which projects require additional environmental review and the status of those reviews. Council reviews the MAC CIP annually under the requirements of the state statute, that's 473.181 and 621. Council is charged with reviewing the CIP to determine that the MAC's public participation process was adequate, including providing timely notice to affected communities and holding the required public hearing and comment periods for consistency with regional policy and conformance with the region's aviation system plan and the transportation policy plan, and to approve the CIP projects meeting certain dollar thresholds. That's $5 million at MSP and anything over $2 million at the MAC relievers, and also meet what's known as significant effects criteria, which I'll outline in a second here. First, staff did confirm that the MAC conducted an adequate public participation process, notifying their affected communities and holding the required public comment period from September 15th to November 15th of last year for the CIP and October 15th to November 15th for the assessment of environmental effects for the 2025 CIP projects. The MAC also held a public hearing on November 4th, 2024, and there were no public comments submitted at the time. Staff conducted a review of the 2025-2031 CIP and overall found it to be consistent with regional policy and to conform to the 2040 TPP. This will be the last time we say that. Next year we'll be looking at the 2050 TPP. There were 28 projects identified in the CIP which met that cost threshold for review, and 26 of those at MSP above $5 million and 2 at relievers above $2 million. One of those reliever projects has also met the criteria for review and approval by the council. During the staff review of the CIP, a project at Lake Elmo Airport was identified that meets the cost and significant effects criteria, which requires council approval. Just reiterate what the significant effects criteria is. So again, that dollar threshold and the six criteria, which one of these is hit, is location of a new airport in the region, a new runway at an existing airport, a runway extension at an existing airport, a runway strengthening at other than routine maintenance at an airport, new or expanded passenger handling or parking facilities, which account for 25% more or capacity increase, or any land acquisition associated with the other criteria. Real quick, we'll go over the actual project at Lake Elmo, some details here. So Lake Elmo Airport, the $4 million project proposes to reconstruct and extend the crosswind runway, that is the smaller minor runway at the airport, known as 04-22, by about 250 feet to a total of 2,750 feet, and make additional improvements to the runway. The project was identified to improve safety and comfort for existing aircraft using the airport today, increase operational flexibility during all weather conditions at the airport, and also meet FAA design guidance for crosswind runways at general aviation facilities. The runway reconstruction also includes other safety investments like new runway lighting and also a new taxiway connection to existing hangars at the north of the airport. The project also received a $1 million construction grant from the state through MnDOT Aeronautics Airport Capital Grant Program. The project has been included in multiple long-term comprehensive plans going back quite a long time, and also was identified and approved in the 2016 long-term comprehensive plan for Lake Elmo. The project was reviewed in a 2018 environmental assessment and received a finding of no significant impact by the FAA, and the EA was adopted by the MAC in October of 2018. The project is consistent with the 2040 TPP and conforms to the regional aviation system. Lake Elmo is classified as a minor airport in the system, and this minor project at the crosswind runway will not change that role. Before we go to the motion, I'd just like to note that we will be reviewing a steady stream of new airport long-term comprehensive plans the next couple of years. Flying Cloud Airport in Eden Prairie will be wrapping up their long-term comprehensive plan process, and likely in the spring of this year, and will be coming to the council for review in mid-2025. And also downtown St. Paul and Anoka Blaine will also be kicking off their update processes, and we'll be reviewing those the next couple of years. Before moving to the motion, if there's any questions or comments, the floor is open.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Councilmember Cameron.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I have, a special insight because I serve as the council's representative to the MAC. And so I think, as we're taking up this item, it might be helpful either to hear from you or possibly Bridget on some of the public engagement that has happened around these items. I think, when we talk about Lake Elmo, there's been engagement around some of the NOC meetings and those types of, there has been really robust engagement leading up to these. So I see Bridget is approaching. So.
Well, she's walking up here. I can say, Chair and council members. So at Lake Elmo specifically, there is a quarterly, I believe, right, meeting that is with the advisory commission. I was in attendance the last time, and I try to attend those as much as I can. And those are kind of ongoing discussions and conversations with direct residents around the airport and users at the airport facilities. I believe all the MAC airports have committees commissions like that, correct?
They do.
And so those are kind of ongoing conversations. So when projects like this or any noise impacts or anything like that, they can get that information to the MAC, and then they can have a discussion on those issues. Additionally, when these long-term plans are put together, these include extensive engagement processes with both the public and airport users and stakeholders as well at the airport. And so when you see these go through this process, you get a little more in-depth engagement as well, but there's generally an open dialogue that exists between all users and MAC and affected residents as well. But for anything else you'd like to add, Bridget?
Madam Chair, members, for the record, Bridget Rafe, Vice President for Planning and Development, excellent job. For our long-term plan processes, we've adopted, as noted, a pretty extensive stakeholder engagement process where not only do we set up a stakeholder engagement panel that gets individual meetings 3 or 4 times over the course of a long-term planning process. We also set up community engagement meetings where we invite the public to the airport, let them see the facility, let them learn a little bit about the airport as well as the projects or items that might be included in the long-term plan. It's been really successful. So MSP is a really good example, but Lake Elmo and Flying Cloud is currently underway. So trying to expand as much as we can our outreach to the community. As part of our process for the capital improvement program specifically, as was noted, there is a process to engage the adjacent communities, and then we do hold a public hearing for our affected, or for our assessment of environmental effects. Quite honestly, those don't really generate a lot of comments. We're really finding that the engagement we're having that's more overall airport specific is garnering much more engagement.
Yeah, thank you for that. I've had an opportunity to attend some of the public meetings, and the MAC staff really do a wonderful job of answering all the questions that residents have. There is some construction surrounding that impacted my district. They did a great job of informing residents, made it accessible and easy to attend. So I think they're doing a really wonderful job of that engagement process, so that as these projects come through, we can feel confident about the due diligence that was done in advance. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Additional questions or comments? All right, seeing none, then I entertain a motion to approve business item 2025-27.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Cameron. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Carter. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you both.
Thank you.
All right, now we're on to business item 2025-2, which is a joint committee item. It's the 2025 January special budget amendment, and we have Ed Petrie and Heather Giesel here.
Good afternoon, Chair, committee members. Ed Petrie, Director of Finance, Metro Transit.
Good afternoon, Chair, committee members. I'm Heather Giesel, Director of Finance and Administration for MTS.
And as the Chair mentioned, we are here to present business item 2025-02 JT. You heard about that with the bus procurements that we would be coming. This is a January special budget amendment. You're probably used to, we normally have quarterly budget amendments. Our quarterly budget amendment will come to the council in approximately March of 2025, but there's a few items that we needed to bring forward this evening, so hence we're having the special budget amendment. I will go through the items for Metro Transit on both the operating and capital side, then turn it over to Heather for the MTS side of the amendment. On the capital side for Metro Transit, we have 4 main items. One is for the Metro G line. This amendment will recognize $1,128,000 in new Ramsey County funding for the G line project. If you recall, Katie Roth came before you about a month ago with all those different adjustments that we were making with the state appropriations, or the state bonding. This is the one item that she had mentioned would be coming in the month of January from Ramsey County. So this is recognizing that funding. For the Metro Blue Line extension, they're recognizing $10 million in state appropriations for a grant to Hennepin County to administer the Blue Line Extension Anti-Displacement Community Prosperity Program. This is also another item that Nick Thompson, I believe a month ago, also mentioned to you that would be coming forward in this amendment. For the Metro Green Line Storage Barn, we're recognizing $13.3 million in sales tax for construction of the Green Line Storage Barn. And for the Gold Line Phase 2, we're recognizing $1 million in sales tax funding for a design contract for the Gold Line Extension project. The total for Metro Transit for these amendment items is $10 million in state funds, $1.1 million in other funds, which is the funding from Ramsey County, and $14.3 million in sales tax funds. On the operating side for Metro Transit, we have a few items here. First of all, we're recognizing $3 million in expenses for the Highway BRT project, development in the US 169 and Highway 55 corridor. The revenues, we have previously brought the revenues in when they were awarded back in 2023. We're now spending the money. So the revenues were brought into the budget, dropped to our fund balance, and now we're going to be using those revenues now in 2025 for $3 million. The expenses will include feasibility studies, pre-design, design, engineering, environmental analysis, and remediation, and right-of-way acquisition. So as I stated, the revenues have been brought in. They went to our fund balance. We're now going to use the expenses now, or recognize the expenses this year. The next item is we're recognizing an adjustment to eliminating peak fares on local bus of about $3.9 million and $200,000 adjustment for adjustments to reduce fares for youth, senior, and Medicare, as was approved by the Phase 1 fare simplification approved by the Council on November 13th, 2024. The Council approved the fare simplification Phase 1 in November, but the 2025 budget was already set, basically set. Too late to make any changes for the numbers We're making the changes now recommended with the special amendment for that phase 1. And then the overall for the Transportation Division, which includes both MTS and Metro Transit, this amendment will also update the MVEST and the sales tax for the recent November 2024 forecast. When the council adopted the budget in December, it was based upon the February 2024 forecast. We received the November 2024 forecast, so those changes we're going to recognize now with this special amendment. With the changes, MVEST was slightly up and sales tax was down. Just to let you know, though, we do receive 2 forecasts a year. We're going to receive our next forecast in February 2025, and we will come before the council and let you know of any changes that come between November and February. And with that, Madam Chair, committee members, I would stand for any questions on the Metro Transit side of the capital or operating amendment.
Thank you, Ed. Questions or comments? Councilmember Cameron.
I apologize.
No worries.
Madam Chair, I had 3 hours of sleep last night, so my brain is not functioning
No
as it
worries.
normally would. So bear with me. But so for the 10 million in anti-displacement funding through Hennepin County, what is our jurisdictional authority to approve that funding? Why are we approving it?
Madam Chair, committee members, I need to call a friend.
I believe so, yeah.
Madam Chair, I believe it's directed by law. So it was taken out of a general fund appropriation that had been for the project, identified for this purpose by Hennepin County, and this is recognizing that in a budget amendment to make that occur.
Thank you, Charles.
Yeah, that's my understanding too. It passes through us to the entity, and then that group needs to look for matching funds to actually allocate the money, I believe.
That is correct.
All right. It's a good question, though. All right, any additional questions or comments? All right, turn it to Heather.
Transitioning over to the MTS portion of the amendment, first in the administrative amendment section, we are repurposing existing funding that is already in the authorized capital plan to complete 17 projects. As a quick reminder, there's no formal action to take, but we've included these adjustments for transparency and for accounting purposes. In the authorized new project section, MTS is requesting to bring into the ACP just over $61 million for a variety of projects that have been included or identified in our capital improvement plan unless otherwise stated in the amendment. This includes approximately $32 million in federal funds, $17 million in sales tax, and $11 million in regional funds, RTC and MVEST. They include Metro Mobility and Network Now vehicle replacement and expansion, 2 40-foot buses for the city of Plymouth, 5 van replacements for Southwest Transit Prime, and CMAQ expansion vehicles for MBTA. Of that $17 million, $15 million of that newly authorized sales tax, along with $8.5 million repurposed in the administrative amendment section, will be returned to the council's sales tax reserves after federal funds are awarded. We anticipate that those awards will come in mid-Q1 2025. In the closing project section, there is just one project for $27,000 that is fully expended and now closed. Funds from that project will be repurposed and made available for existing or future projects. There are no changes to the MTS operating or pass-through budgets in this amendment. So again, our requested action is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the 2025 Unified Budget Amendment as indicated and in accordance with the attached tables. And we're happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Additional questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2025-2. JT?
Motion to approve?
Moved by Councilmember Chambliss. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Pacheco. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you both.
Thank you.
All right, now we're on to business item 2025-16, which is the Regional Travel Demand Management Program Software as a Service upgrade. We had Wendy Duran and Teresa Kane here.
Oh, sure. Okay, go ahead. Yeah. Great. Hi. So good evening, Madam Chair, council members. We're here today to present to you about a contract amendment, which is an upgrade to a technology investment that we've got here at the council. And currently what we have is one
function of what we're going to be doing with this technological investment. But truly, this would be an underpinning of our current regional TDM action plan. It would certainly be upgrading the system. It would be supporting our clients and partners as well as subrecipients of funds. And it also would support behavior change for multimodal travel choice. My name is Wendy Duran. I'm with MTS, and joining me today as leads on the project, Teresa Kane and Nate Krogh with Commuter Programs. This has truly been a very collaborative project for us between the two different organizations, and we're looking forward to sharing more information about that with you today. So wanted to mention some background on this. This work with the Regional Travel Demand Management has been going on for quite some time with commuter programs. Back in 2000, the Met Council had started an initiative to look at supporting it additionally by enhancing more TDM programming with this initiative. And it culminated in the Regional Travel Demand Management Action Plan, which was published back in October of 2023. And there are quite a few recommendations that are in this study, but what I'd like to share with you today has more to do with how the recommendations that are found in the study would speak directly to this amendment and this upgrade to the technology that we're talking about. So it would certainly support some current functions, which is allowing our TDM partners and subrecipients of TDM funds a place to capture their data and report on their actions and outcomes. But it would also allow us, our clients, to have a portal where they can be engaging with their activities with travel demand management as well. And our clients consist of employers, multi-unit residential communities, post-secondary education institutions, and other TDM partners. It would also allow us to improve the user experience with some of the public-facing initiatives that are supported with this technology. Teresa will go into more detail on that. And it will also allow us to administer for communities that are looking for travel demand management activities at the building level, so more the developer side of TDM. It would also allow us to align ourselves with MnDOT and the state legislature regarding GHG and VMT reduction initiatives and allow us to better plan for the future. So now I'll turn it over to Teresa, and she'll share more detail with you on why we consider this such an important initiative to move forward with and we're seeking your approval on.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Council members. So right now, the regional TDM program data collection is housed in a variety of systems. They don't really talk to each other. There are a lot of different kinds of things. I listed a few here. Right now, we're using the product called OneCommute for our client outreach, which is tracking outreach to various employers, et cetera, and getting them to engage in TDM programs. We also have public-facing programs like our Guaranteed Ride Home and ride matching systems. Finance is involved in their various systems. Our grants department is involved because some of our partners are subrecipients. Metro Van Pool, which is at MTS, reports to the NTD, National Transit Database, et cetera. So you can see there are a number of systems there. What we're hoping to do is modernize, provide some efficiency and some opportunities for our various customers. And here's a few examples. So currently the Guaranteed Ride Home program is available to folks who travel 3 or more days by an alternative to driving alone. So transit, walking, bike, carpool, those kinds of things. In the existing program, the participants will submit a request for reimbursement. So when they need a ride home, say they've gone to work by transit and their boss asks them to work late and they missed their last bus home, this program can provide a ride home for them up to a certain dollar amount. Right now, participants are required to pay for that ride up front, so they could call a taxi or an Uber or something, they pay up front. They submit their request and request for reimbursement, and then they receive, subsequently upon approval, they receive a check. And that whole process can take up to 30 days. So the amendment would allow us to automate some of that, and it will also allow some of our qualifying users, ride requests and payment to be automated so that, for example, the unbanked or lower income participants would not have to outlay any money up front. The system would instead give them a code, allow them to call for a ride. From our finance side, we would no longer be issuing checks, which I know is a concern for our finance department, and instead, the Sellwell, the company that owns One Commute, would be invoicing us for those rides within the parameters that we have set. So there are a number of benefits there. Also, our clients, they rely on emails, meetings, et cetera, to receive participation data. As Wendy suggested, we would be able to provide them with a portal so they can see real-time outcomes for their participation in various programs. So for example, if they are enrolled in a past program, they can watch that participation go up and down, and then we can engage with them and say, hey, what can we do to increase your participation? Or what can you tell us so that we can be more helpful? And then also we have partners, our transportation management organizations and other partners who rely on emails and meetings to receive relevant data from us and for their clients, and this way they can see real time. They are currently participating with the client-based portion. They can see real time some of this information. And so they have access to their own reporting, et cetera, to monitor their progress. What we are planning to do, what we would like to do is upgrade from the one module that we have, which is the client-based outreach, to an enterprise package. This software is based on a system, but is designed specifically for use with travel demand management, TDM. In this chart, the client outreach has an asterisk. That's what we currently have. The bolded programs are the ones that we would like to implement of all of these programs in the first year. And then the other programs are available to us, including, for example, emission reduction reporting, et cetera. There is also an opportunity to link some of these various systems so that we have real-time data and a one source of data from all of these various systems. So really a modernization and upgrade for the travel demand management program. The cost of the amendment, so this amendment costs include both the subscription for the enterprise product and the implementation costs. So they're very heavy upfront in 2025. They are lower, significantly lower in the second year because our contract ends in April, at which time we would be renewing the contract for the full enterprise suite. And some of the urgency, and I guess urgency is maybe the wrong word, but we would like to implement this as soon as possible so that we can gain momentum toward fulfilling the terms of the action plan that we've committed to. So with that, Madam Chair, council members, if you have any questions, I'm here to answer, and I brought my phone a friend, Nate.
Thank you, and thank you all. Questions or comments? Councilmember Cameron.
Can you talk a little bit about the marketplace for this type of software? It sounds like we're already using One Commute, but are there, for one aspect of TDM, but are there other software packages? Did we look at any of those?
Yeah, so when we did the initial RFP, which for just the one module for client outreach, we did look at get bids from a number of different organizations. They did not, upon analysis, they did not meet the needs that we were trying to fulfill with the client-based outreach. And this product then, like I said, has these other products included and incorporated so that they can all talk to each other and report internally within the system and externally with other programs.
So the previous RFP, the other software did not even come to meet the minimum for what we required for the client?
In some cases. I can give you more detail about the results of that analysis, but it was quite some time ago since we're the end of a 5-year contract, but we did look at other software. We did get proposals and evaluate them against the needs.
You want to follow up?
Yeah,
And then Councilmember
I just, with the expansion to other areas and other modules within the program, I just wonder if it would be of value to review what else is out there. And if it was some time ago, if there's been updates to other software that may better suit our needs. And so that's the only question I would pose.
Go ahead.
Of course, yes. Madam Chair and council members, the RFP that was done for the 5-year contract, I was not part of that process, but I came on board after. I've met with our IS contacts, and the way that they explained it to us was that they're currently looking at more of 10-year gaps as far as technology advancement. And so when they did the analysis for the initial RFP, the recommendation was that we would need to do a thorough analysis. They recommended 10 years later. We're currently 5 years later. So they said that as of right now, continue as is with the analysis that was done, but that we would have to do thorough RFPs as time passed to allow for that technology to catch up.
Can I ask if there is some follow-up that you would like to see from us?
You know, I think Nate's response helped address it, that there's some anticipation that the software just wouldn't develop that quickly over a decade, and that's, you know, not knowing enough about this particular type of software, it sounds like there hasn't been a revolution within the last 5 years in this area, and so maybe that additional analysis is not needed. I just want to make sure that we're, as we're looking at this contract, that we're thinking carefully, even if it makes a lot of sense to go this route.
Thank you for the question. I appreciate that.
Councilmember Chambliss.
Yeah, my question is kind of about the scale of the existing commuter program. I know we received a presentation on that, but I'm not sure how many services we're providing, how many companies are involved with the program. I just don't have enough information here, I think, as far as having a real good picture of how this is going to, I mean, I see the bullet points of what you're requesting for additional enhancements, but I'm not able to kind of picture it in my mind as far as value add for the additional money. And I'm sort of hearing that.
Try that one? Sure. Madam Chair, Council Member, thank you so much for that question. So one of the things that we're identifying is that we're working towards having a comprehensive data capture scenario, whether it be with our clients or with the public or with our partners, so that we can really get to the efficacy of our programming. So right now, we have a system that allows us to have our partners providing information into this system. With our 2025 work plans that we just are going through the approval process right now, we're actually making it a requirement. So we're really building into a program where we're looking at outcomes and activities and how our TDM program is doing regionally. And so it's a very natural question to ask, like, what does this mean? Because we definitely have data, and Teresa and Nate can speak to like the numbers that are in the system right now. But being that we're expanding it to 2 fully different markets on top of that, it's really going to get us to like what is working, what isn't, where should we pivot, what is reducing vehicle miles traveled, what is getting us to these greenhouse goal reductions, but also what is helping the community we're serving, right? So there are equity components to these programs. It will provide us really the opportunity to be creative and find ways to serve all the communities within the 7-county region, really, with this software. So we see it as a really great jumping off place is where we are now, but we just will continue to see it grow and really provide us with data that will tell a story of travel demand management in the region more effectively with the data capture and the outcomes we'll be able to report on.
Chair.
Councilmember Chambliss.
Thank you. That's very helpful. I'm glad to see the emphasis on the evaluation, and I know in order to do that right, you need to have this type of a plan in place, and it does cost. So that's helpful. Thank you.
And just my general comments, I think what we've got right now are multiple systems that don't talk to each other. And so it's creating a lot of extra work and not efficiency and transparency amongst the systems. And this will help that over time as we're trying to grow a program. All right, additional questions, comments? All right, then I would entertain a motion to approve business item 2025-16.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Cameron. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Councilmember Pacheco. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we're on to business item 2025-4 and -5, which we'll have Andrew Brody here for the Metro Transit Agency Safety Plan and MTS Agency Safety Plan. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Brody. I'm the Director of Safety for Metro Transit. Today I have business item 2025-4, the Metro Transit Agency Safety Plans, both the bus and the light rail one. And the proposed action today is the Metropolitan Council adopt revision 7 of the Bus Transportation Agency Safety Plan and the light rail transportation agency safety plan for Metro Transit as required by 49 CFR Part 673. The background to this is the Transportation Committee and the Metropolitan Council first adopted the Metro Transit Agency Safety Plans back in 2022 as required by the Public Transit Agency Safety Plan, also known as PTAS, Final Rule 49 CFR Part 673. The above cited regulation requires the safety plans to be reviewed and approved by the Joint Labor Management Safety Committee, also known as the JLMSC, prior to the governing body approving. This year's annual review included adding changes to comply with the new rule of 49 CFR Part 673 that came out April this year. Just some minor changes with some definition changes that the FTA made, and then also requiring a safety risk reduction program that is also incorporated into these plans. Under 49 CFR 673, bus agency safety plans and the light rail transportation agency safety plan are signed by the accountable executive and chief operating officer and state safety oversight office and approved by the agency's joint labor management safety committee and the board of directors. On December 12th is actually when the joint labor management safety committee voted to approve revision 7 of both both agency safety plans, the light rail and the bus transportation agency safety plan, and all were in favor of these plans, both on the management and on the labor side. With that, I will stand with any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments? Councilmember Cameron.
Prior to the new rulemaking that occurred in 2020, was there a predecessor to this safety plan? And what did that look like? What did this rule change that now requires us to put forward this safety plan?
Absolutely, Madam Chair, council members. There was a requirement to have a safety system program, and that's was basically a common practice within the industry. It wasn't required by law, except for those that had rail transit, and so that was under Part 659. So, but it was only required for light rail public transit agencies, not for bus, but we did have one on the bus side along with the light rail side. So when this new rule of Part 673 came out, the Part 659 was sunsetted and this rule took effect.
Thank you. All right, additional questions, comments? Just a quick comment. I just really want to thank, if you see the evolution of how we've gone through the process of approving these plans as this law has come on board, I really want to thank Metro Transit leadership, ATU leadership, and for sure the Joint Labor Management Safety Committee members, and also you, Andrew, because we really have, I think, a robust process and a good team working on this, and you can really see that reflected in the work. So I just really want to thank you. So with that, I would entertain a motion to approve business item 2025-4.
Motion to approve.
Moved by Councilmember Chambliss. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Carter. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And back to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and council members. The next business item I have for you today is 2025-5, and this is the Metropolitan Transportation Services, MTS Agency Safety Plan. Proposed action is the Metropolitan Council adopt revision 4 of the Agency Safety Plan for the Metropolitan Transportation Services, MTS, as required by 49 CFR Part 673. The Transportation Committee and the Metropolitan Council first adopted this, again, back in 2020 when the PTAS final rule went into effect, Part 673. And then also the same type of changes, obviously, to this plan were in the last business items were definition changes and requirement of a safety risk reduction program. And this plan does have to be reviewed and approved by the MTS Safety Committee as well. And that was done back in early December on one of their safety committee meetings. Therefore, I'll stand for any questions on the MTS agency safety plan.
Thank you. Questions or comments from council members? All right, seeing none, then I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2025-5.
Motion to approve.
Moved by Councilmember Chambliss. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Cameron. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay, and the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we're on to business item 2025-7, which is contract amendment authorization for transit planning software, and we have Sean Morrell here.
Thank you, Madam Chair, council members. My name is Sean Morrell. I'm the manager of system support for service development at Metro Transit, and I'm here to request your support for a contract amendment for our Remix transit planning software. Brief overview of our existing Remix contract. We've been using this software, these transit planning tools, since 2019. We have 3 modules in use today: transit, streets, and on-demand planning, and I'll explain more about those in the next slides. The user base for these software tools includes not only service development planners and analysts, but also the arterial BRT staff, engineering and facilities, and Metropolitan Transportation Services. The first of the 3 products is called Transit. This is a software tool that allows us to model fixed route bus service scenarios and to estimate operational resources, and also measure the demographics of the communities being served by these routes. This is useful not only for individual route planning, but also for system-wide reconfiguration and larger initiatives such as Network Now. The second of the 3 products is called Streets. Streets allows us to illustrate conceptual designs for the placement and layout of transit stations and roadways. This is useful for our folks in arterial BRT and also for initiatives such as speed and reliability, where the placement of stops and stations is critical. And the third of the 3 products is called On-Demand Planning. We use this module to model microtransit service zones, again, evaluating the operational resources needed to deliver the service, and also looking at the demographics for the communities served. You may see reference to a previous contract amendment for this contract. The first amendment added this on-demand planning product to our suite of tools. So our need for the contract amendment is that our current contract expires on March 31st. Meanwhile, we have a request for proposals that's currently underway for a new contract, which is looking at products across the market. So this is an open competitive procurement for similar tools such as these, and we hope to make those awards by about May of this year. The contract amendment in front of you today is to extend the current contract by 3 months, just to give us a little bit of extra time to complete that RFP process and to ensure continuity of services up until as late as June 30th. A council action is required for this amendment because professional service contracts greater than $500,000 require council approval. The current contract budget is just shy of that threshold, so with this contract extension of $65,000, that puts us over the $500,000 threshold, and that's why we're in front of you today. The proposed council action then is that the council authorize the regional administrator to execute contract amendment authorization number 2 for contract 23M006 with Remix Technologies, LLC, for transit planning tools for a term no longer than 3 months in the amount not to exceed $65,625. The next steps after today is we hope to be in front of the council on Wednesday the 22nd. Meanwhile, we're conducting that proposal evaluation under the RFP and working on a vendor selection for a new contract. And we're hoping that that new agreement would take effect no later than July 1st. And with that, Madam Chair, I'll stand for questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions or comments? All right, and then I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2025-7.
Move approval.
Moved by Councilmember Carter. Is there a second?
Second.
By Councilmember Pacheco. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we are on to our final business item, which is business item 2025-18, which is 2025 Metro Pass license contract renewals. And we have Dustin Christini here.
Last but not least. All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, my name is Dustin Christini. I'm here with business item 2025-18, 2025 Metro Pass contract renewal, customer contracts exceeding $500,000 for the term of the agreement. Madam Chair, today we're here to ask the council to authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute new 5-year Metro Pass agreements for Metro Pass customers with a renewal date January 1, 2025 through 2030, in order for them to provide Metro Passes to their eligible employees. Just a little background here, Madam Chair. The Metro Pass is our unlimited ride employer pass program. As of December 1st, 2021, we are excited to have 320 participating organizations with about 9,000 active passes in the system. For the 2025 calendar year upcoming, we have 141 scheduled contract renewals, 20 of which we estimate will meet or exceed $500,000 for the new term of their agreement. We estimate that these 20 agreements could bring in annual revenues of about $5.9 million and $29.5 million over the new 5-year term. So per income grants policy FM 15-1, we are bringing this forward for council approval. Again, Madam Chair, we are here to ask that the council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute these new 5-year agreements. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Councilmember Carter.
Thank you. Certainly support the Metro Pass program and all that it brings to our region with these agreements. I heard you say that there are currently how many and how many are set to renew? And my question is about those that aren't set to renew and additional marketing that we do. Are there others anticipated who will start?
Yeah, thank you. Madam Chair, Council Member, the Metro Pass renews on a rolling cycle. So currently, as of December 1, we had 320 active contracts in the program. Since the bulk of that's going to happen this upcoming year with 141 of them scheduled to renew.
I see.
Yep. So close to half will renew, and then the rest of them kind of trickle on through the 5-year cycles that we have.
I understand that.
Yep.
And then do we have new contracts anticipated coming on board with new organizations that may be subscribing? How often does that happen?
Madam Chair, Council Member, as of February 1, we do not have any new customers coming in, but we do anticipate, like we do every year, we do have new customers. So we're hoping as we start to hear rumblings of employers coming back to the downtown cores and employees increasing their frequency back into the office, we hope that trend, brings in new Metro Pass riders and new Metro Pass customers as well.
All right. And one final question. I don't know if you will have this information, but could you give me a sense of how many additionals may have come on board, and it could be none, I understand, over the last period?
Madam Chair, Council Member, I would have to look at that. I can see we had a few new customers in 2024. We can definitely provide that list to your team and the committee here for them to review.
This is helpful to know there is a rolling subscription happening. They don't have to wait until the next cycle or anything of that sort. They can come on board.
Correct, yep.
Thank you.
And just to add on to an earlier question, add on to my response earlier, we do have a lot of outreach efforts currently going on for the Metro Pass promotion. Teresa Kane, who was up here earlier, along with their team, they're out advocating for for the program. We also have our Metro TMO partners like the Move Minneapolis and Move Minnesota, who are also out selling the program to the areas here in the car. So
Thank you for that assurance.
we're excited. We're hopeful.
Indeed.
Councilmember Chambliss.
Oh, thank you for that presentation. I was looking at the companies in the appendix, and I worked for 2 of those companies and used the pre-tax benefit of the Metro Pass at each of those companies. So it is a really good program. It allows, the employees to reduce their taxable income. and support public transit and benefit from public transit. So that's great.
Appreciate the endorsement of the program. It's good to hear from people who used it. It is one of the programs that has definitely felt some of the impact of a reduction in commuter services. But I believe as we're looking at restructuring fares and bringing on the fare equipment, we're going to kind of relook at this and do some additional marketing around it. Yeah. All right. Look at Brian, make sure that I'm correct. Councilmember Cameron.
Is there a size requirement for companies to participate in the Metro Pass program?
Madam Chair, committee member, no. We have reduced, in order to make this as appealing as possible, we have reduced all the minimum participation levels. Many years ago, we probably had a number of about 10, minimum of 10 employees to participate. We have found that reducing that number to 1, allows us to be as flexible as we possibly can to the most wide variety of employer sizes that are interested in the program.
That's all right.
Does this program include academic institutions? So, or are those negotiated separately? So let's say for teachers or faculty members.
Yeah, Madam Chair, committee member, yes, it does include some of our local colleges and universities and the Minneapolis Public Schools, their staff, they have the MetroPass program there. Many of them are listed here. We have universities like St. Thomas University and Hamlin. They have MetroPass programs for their employees, and we found that they do take advantage of that when they can as well. So,
Okay, so those employees are negotiated separately from student passes.
Madam Chair, Commander, yes, that is correct. That is a different program.
Great, thank you.
That's a good question. Additional questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I entertain a motion to approve business item 2025-18.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Carter. Is there a second?
Second.
And by Councilmember Pacheco. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And that concludes our business for the evening. Although we had a long agenda, unless there are questions or concerns from the committee members, I would say the business item 2025-22, the larger contract for the heavy-duty buses, and the budget amendment are the only items to go non-consent?
Yeah.
Everyone agree? Very good. All right. With that, our business for the evening is concluded, and we can be adjourned.